everyone, welcome back to Shawn, Thinking Out Loud. I'm your host, Shawn, and today we're diving deep into a topic that's not just controversial, but also at a very heart of what it means to be human: natural rights, the Constitution, and abortion. Now, I know this can be a heated debate, but my goal is to break it down in a way that makes sense. So, grab your coffee, settle in, and let's get to the heart of the matter. So, let's set the stage. We often hear arguments about abortion framed through the lens of rights, women's rights, reproductive rights, the right to choose. But there's a fundamental question we need to ask. What do we mean by rights, and where do they come from? Natural rights are those basic rights that every individual possesses simply by being human. They don't depend on laws, culture, or social norms. They exist inherently. The Declaration of Independence speaks of these as unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But let's break it down further. When you start talking about abortion, you're really treading on thin ice of life and death. If we hold that every human has a right to life, how does that interact with the argument for a woman's right to choose? Now, I can already hear the pushback, but Shawn, what about the woman's right to her own body? And that's a valid point, but let's think critically here. If we say a fetus has no rights, we're essentially saying that the right to life is conditional. And that brings us to our first core point. Natural rights are absolute. They don't have an age limit. They don't discriminate based on circumstance. They simply exist because you are human. So when someone argues for an abortion right, one must consider, does that right infringe upon another's right to live? Let's consider this scenario. If I were to say that you could take another person's life for your convenience, we would rightly call that murder. So why does the conversation change when we discuss abortion? Moreover, I find it perplexing how often people confuse the pursuit of happiness with some form of entitlement. It's not about being handed happiness, it's about the freedom to pursue it. And for many, happiness might very well be nurturing life rather than terminating it. Here's a thought. Thomas Jefferson once said, "The care of human life and happiness is the first and only object of good government." This goes back to the essence of our Constitution. It calls for a government that protects life, not one that enables its termination based on convenience. And let's not forget some eye-opening statistics. According to data from the Guttmacher Institute, around 1 in 4 women in the U.S. will have an abortion by 45. That's 1 in 4 women who are proper garden tools. You figure it out. That's significant, but rather than just looking at numbers, we should look at those numbers represent real lives and real choices. So, what have we unpacked today? Natural rights are intrinsic and absolute. They underline our Constitution and cannot simply be overlooked when discussing issues like abortion. The right to life is not just a phrase. It holds profound implications for our understanding of morality and law. Remember, folks, these discussions aren't about politics. They're about principles that define who we are as a society. As we wrap up this short, think of the absurdity. The same people who kill 3,000 Americans a day believe they're morally superior to you because you voted for Donald Trump. If you enjoyed this video or if it made you think, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your friends. Let's keep the dialogue going.